Okay, so this is part two of my empath video series. The other part of the empath video, part one, was recorded several months ago. Can't remember. I want to say May, maybe. Anyways, you scroll back on my channel, it's there. If you like these videos, I invite you to check out my monthly energy update videos, the other videos I have on my channel. You can like them, subscribe if you like the messages, because it does help other people see these messages that maybe need to hear it. So you might be doing your part to help someone else out. Okay. Let's dive into Empath Part 2. So the first video, just to like recap a little bit from what I can remember, we talked about how the empath, um, man, carries, I didn't say it this way, but like it's clear, coming through a little more clearly now. The empath, people that identify as empaths, carry such amazing codes of compassion and being able to be compassionate towards other people themselves, and that is part of like learning how to be a healthy empath, is really learning how to give compassion to yourself before you give it to anybody else. Because if you can't give it to yourself, when you do give it to someone else, it's not compassion, it's something else. It feels like a hidden agreement within there. Like it's you're giving that compassion maybe to receive that in exchange. And it's just not the highest expression. Can you be doing that and operating that way? Absolutely. But it's not the highest expression of the empath template, which the empath template also holds incredible keys around the idea of oneness, which directly relate to source energy, being able to access the wisdom that comes from oneness. And we talked about in the first video how the empaths kind of have a skewed sense, they need to learn how to ground the energy of oneness as it applies to this density here on planet Earth, and how that actually works in a lower density frequency, because oneness, probably from a lot of people's mind, means being one with everything and everyone. Yes, and that is true on so many levels. And we are here to have an individual experience in this reality. And so learning how to apply these grander concepts, these grander ideas that are true through all the dimensions, is finding the thread of truth of how they actually apply to all the dimensions is where the truth really is. Because I think a lot of empaths carry the higher dimensions of oneness and that understanding of what oneness is, and that gets translated to like merging with other people here. So, okay, that's kind of a little bit of a recap. I also talked about like, yes, is there an empath as a trauma response? Absolutely. My particular perspective on this is that there are people that come in with empathic gifts. Again, the gifts of compassion, of being empathetic with other people, their circumstances, what they've been through, what they're going through, and being able to be with people in that. Whew, that is a huge gift. Well, you will never unlock it if it is coming from the place that it often gets switched into when we enter into physical reality here on Earth, to unawake, unaware families, parents, societies, into a fear-based mechanism. And so that's actually what I really want to talk about today, because I think this is where most empaths are and why they struggle so much to like feel everybody's stuff. And it's so overwhelming, and like, oh my gosh, it may be like you can't function correctly in your life. Maybe you're like your nervous system is always frazzled and dysregulated, especially when you're around other people that are frazzled and dysregulated. It's like learning how to be in that power center, no matter what you're feeling going on around you, is definitely part of this journey. Um, okay, the first thing I want to talk about that. So the wounded empath is just a fear-based, you're in a fear-based, control-based programming, that is mixed with your intuitive gifts and your compassion and your empathy for other people. Um, And so the way this actually really shows up for a lot of empaths is confusion. Confusion is probably the number one thing that an empath deals with on a daily basis that makes it so overwhelming because you are confused, most likely, about who you are without the reference of other people, what other people show to you, what other people say to you, how other people react to you. You've likely built an entire identity around how other people are treating you. And so your entire frame of reference for who you are is outside of yourself. So we have to reclaim that and bring the reference point back inside ourselves. What this is called is attunement. And this is something that you probably learned at a very young age. Maybe you had parents that were maybe very afraid themselves, maybe stuck in trauma themselves, maybe reactive, unpredictable, or just controlling and hypervigilant themselves. And you learn to attune to them. So the empath, in order to unlock the gifts, you have to learn how to attune to your own self, your own energy first, and that will dissipate the confusion. And this is a journey you have to go on. You have to kind of move through the experiences. You have to resolve them, complete them, whether that's trauma or just shocking experiences or just fear that you were around as a baby, an infant. This starts really like pre-birth. Um, when things get too much, and if you have that coding in your DNA as well, which if you have these gifts that you're here to share with being empathic and compassionate, you probably picked genetic lines that also have those genetic keys in the DNA, but they were most people on the planet that have those keys in the DNA are what we would call reversed into the fear-based state where it becomes hypervigilant monitoring and attuning to other people outside ourselves and basically not really having a strong sense of self-reference. And I believe I talked a little bit about identity in the part one video, but like your identity of who you are is something that empaths really, really need to work on. And that can bring up all kinds of things. And also I was saying too, in order to unlock those gifts, you have to be willing to move through those experiences and feel how you felt in those experiences in order to resolve them and in order to unlock the gifts. So again, when I talk about attuning to other people, it is also a survival mechanism to essentially distract you from the impact of other people's behavior and how it makes you feel. How you feel is probably one of the last things that was on your mind for maybe a portion of your life. It was all about how other people felt, and how you felt maybe didn't matter. And that could have also been reinforced through societal conditioning or your parents, how they raised you, how they rewarded you for certain behaviors, maybe punished you for other behaviors. That could have gotten really ingrained into your subconscious that like, oh, when I'm actually overly attuned to everybody else, monitoring how everybody else feels, not feeling how this impacts me, I actually get good things in life. And I just feel called if you're a person that has been trying to make changes in your life in some way or heal something and you felt a little stuck or resistance in your life, it is probably because you are being called to look at this aspect, if you identify as an empath, of like really realizing the gravity of how things made you feel in the past, which is a really scary thing to do for a lot of people because you have to feel how having a parent that was afraid all the time, and maybe that came out in the form of anger, like that was what definitely my mom, who has passed away, has given me permission to share this. If she was alive, she would not give me permission to share this, but we talk, and she's like, no, this is why this happened, so you could talk about it. She was so afraid that of something bad happening to me that she was just so reactive and just really stressed out all the time and came out as anger for her. And it freaked me out as a kid, and it really deeply impacted me in a negative way. And so it's like these things, some people you have very clearly like parents that were like not safe people, unpredictable, chaotic. Maybe there was alcohol or drugs in the family, or, even if a parent is chronically dissociated, they're not present in their body. And little kids are so in tune, especially if you're born with this empathic like nature, you knew before you could even probably know like the words to speak it, that parent is not in their body. And that signals danger to you as a kid because you are reliant on that parent. They're not being present with you. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be like a malicious thing. It can be a malicious thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Like in my mom's case, she didn't want to hurt me. If she was alive and I had to tell her how much that hurt me, I mean, it would trigger her deeply because I know at her core of core, she was just trying to do everything she could to protect me. So, anyways, there's a lot of nuance to that. I'm speaking to a lot of different people with a lot of different family experiences, and you'll maybe resonate somewhere on the spectrum. But the idea is that you didn't feel safe for whatever reason, whether that was mirroring a parent's behavior or like you literally had dangerous people around you, dangerous circumstances, even the unpredictability as an infant is dangerous. If somebody's not responding to you when you are in need and you're afraid and you're crying and you can't talk, that is like huge danger to a little infant that's just learning how to navigate the world. And so these are how these empathic compassion gifts get reversed and flipped on their head. And they're really actually divine feminine gifts. When I like boil it down, 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 down to the very root, it is a divine feminine energy that is the gift of the empath, which means potential to generate incredible abundance, yes, financially, but like think in terms of nature, like the abundance of nature and the giving nature, like givingness nature of nature, but also like the receiving. It's like that. It's a real, so I feel like I'm getting confused here because, or I'm confusing some people because giving is a masculine energy, but it's like when that divine feminine is in balance, naturally the other half comes in balance. And that union that is created is where a lot of those energies flow from, where we talk about giving and receiving and abundance. Really, abundance is the balancing of the giving and receiving. But a lot of the key codes for this society at this time on this planet are about balancing that divine feminine gift. It's all about nurturing. It's about, but really truly nurturing from the pure mother's love. And a lot of us have never had that experience. Maybe you had a very nurturing mother, but she may not have been able to carry that 100% of the time because she's human. So, pausing this conversation and just giving compassion to your human self that has gone through all of this. And maybe you've seen how you've shown up maybe in the wounded feminine, or wounded masculine because you're feminine suppressed, or you've created really tough circumstances for yourself because you've been in wounded empath programming, or maybe you have just been anxious your whole life, or whatever it is because of this stuff. You are human too. And part of like what empaths really, really need to learn how to do is, like I started this video, learn how to give compassion and acceptance to their own selves first before they extend that to anybody else, because it really is inauthentic to be giving that to other people when you don't carry it inside. Can you do it? Yes. It's all right. It's debatable because you don't really carry the true signature of compassion if you can't give it to yourself. So can you be giving a form of compassion to others if you can't give it to yourself? Absolutely. And it's a disembodied frequency. It's not grounded here. because compassion is really what oneness means is like for everybody, including yourself. So if you're excluding yourself from all of this, excluding how you feel, excluding or even suppressing how you feel. So again, the empath really suppresses their own feeling, which may come as a surprise because you're like, no, I feel everything. I feel a lot. My question to you would be like, are you feeling what how you feel? Are you feeling how other people feel? Have you ever taken the time to be like, wow, this is how this made me feel, even though my mom or my dad did their best? Damn, there was some stuff that really, really fucking hurt me. So it is also this like getting over this slight spiritual bypassing where you're like, I recognize their humanity. I know that they're human. I know they were just doing their best. And that had an impact to you. Like their wounds impacted you, as all wounds do. And by denying that other people's wounds didn't have an impact on you, is to continue and perpetuate the wounded empath. And you're going to continue to actually create situations and have people mirror to you what emotions you're actually holding inside. But it's going to be in this confused state of like, is this mine? Is this theirs? It's going to be mostly them projecting onto you. And you're going to be like, no, this is their energy. It's not me. And that's there in your life because there's a part of you that's holding that same energy within that you haven't owned, you haven't taken responsibility for, you haven't accepted within your own self. So, just looking at your current relationship dynamics, friendships, romantic, family, like what are the dominant energies that you feel from them? What are the things that you're most afraid of or most triggered by in your relationships? Because those are your mirrors as an empath to go within and be like, oh, that's what flips. You saw me do that intuitively. That's what flips the reversal is by being able to be curious about, okay, what within me is being triggered by this? Because I feel like in spiritual circles, especially, it's super easy to be like, oh, that's other people's stuff. I don't need to deal with it. Blah blah blah. I'm just gonna like set boundaries. That's healthy. An important stage, but it doesn't truly unlock the gifts. It's a part of the journey. But to really truly unlock those gifts, you have to be willing to look at the emotions within, which is sometimes the scariest thing for the empath to do. Which also may sound counterintuitive and or may not quite land with some of you, but maybe if you sit with it a little longer, you will see something new in yourself. I'll just say that because a lot of empaths, I know I was this way, is like, no, I'm really good at feeling my emotions because I feel everybody's stuff all day, every day. Yeah, but I was not good at feeling my own stuff. Like the pain of loneliness, like that empaths feel, the isolation that empaths feel because they are constantly tending to other people's shit and constantly being distracted by other people's shit and taking it on and having to clear it or like playing out dynamics because they don't know where they are and what they feel. And so they're constantly being pulled into other people's power dynamics, drama, and eventually the body will just shut down and say no. I mean, that's what happened to me. So, like, you can get away living that way as the wounded empath, where you're just like always just attuned to other people, getting pulled into different power dynamics and stuff. And eventually the body will be like, no, not healthy. You need to feel what's going on inside your own self. And when you don't know who you are, that deeply impacts you. And it's so hard to admit, I don't know who I am. My entire life, I've been attuned to other people and I've created an entire identity based on how other people respond to me, which is not who I am. That can also be so liberating and fun when you flip it and say, okay, but I get to explore that. I get to create that. But it only becomes fun and exciting once you've met the real impact of living that way, having to suppress your authentic self to live in this world, to not to cut yourself off from that, to survive. Um, and that has real emotional impacts that are being stored in your body, and they are begging for that compassion that you so readily give to other people. It's time to turn that inwards on yourself. Because again, I'll tell you, it's a very lonely place to be when you feel like you have no choice but to be who other people want you to be, in order to survive. And then that part of you feel like maybe just dies, but it never dies. It never goes away. There's so many emotions wrapped up in the moment where you made the decision, which probably happened for most of you in infancy, pre-birth, or toddler years. So it's not something you're going to probably consciously remember, or maybe you do, when you're like, I have to attune to these other people because they're not going to attune to me. That's the only way I get my needs met. That's the only way I am getting, I can be taken care of or have peace, is if I help take care of these other adults that don't know how to take care of themselves. Mm. It's just the gravity of all that. And maybe you can start to feel this come up in your body. I can feel it in some of you. Just the overwhelming amount of pain you carry from those experiences, and feeling like you have to be responsible for other people at such an early age because they couldn't handle their own anxiety, their own pain, their own traumas, maybe their own wounded empath templates, because yes, they are your parents and they carry the same genetics. And maybe that you can eventually extend compassion to them for how they raised you, because they probably were wounded empaths themselves and had no idea what that was. And you probably can relate on how that can be really hard. And that's not where you should be focusing. It's great. It's a great perspective to have. But where you need to focus is, how did that really impact you? And you'll never clear the trauma imprints if you can't recognize and allow yourself to be um, compassionate with the impacts of how you were raised. And it's not an easy journey. I feel like this is my messages lately. It's not easy, which is why so many people stay stuck or only part of the way on the journey, where the empath's like, I'm an empath, I feel everything. And they use this as an excuse to not go any further. Just be like, I don't do those things. I shut myself off from people. I go in nature and I never talk to other people and I isolate myself. Again, damn, that's lonely. We're not meant to live that way. And sometimes people have to do that because they haven't been able to flip that empathic gene over to true compassion. And what allows you to do that is feeling it, because once you feel all of that, then you can truly extend compassion. Like I said, it's like this, again, disembodied compassion that most empaths are giving to other people. Doesn't mean that it can't help people, but it's not fully integrated. And so it's not the true pure energy. And yeah, again, it can get, you can get entangled really easy with people and their energy. Like, almost is designed to intensify the empathic nature when you're being like giving and kind and compassionate to everybody else but yourself. You get entangled when you're not embodying like the true energies of what that is. You almost get more entangled energetically with people, and you start to feel things even more, and things get harder, and maybe you feel the pull to isolate or shut down, or it's like things get more intensified because you're being asked to, like, look, you don't have capacity to be giving that compassion to anybody right now. You're pouring from an empty cup. I mean, that's a classic saying, but it's true. You don't have any compassion in your cup to give, so what you're giving is, it's something else. It does help people, but man, it is at your own expense. And so going through the process of really feeling all of that is what allows you to embody the true energy of compassion. When you feel the depths of your suffering from living this way, I hate to like say these things, but it's like, man, if you want the world to change, if you want to have wonderful relationships in your life and be an empath and not like be like, I can't go to these places, or I have to just be alone, or my nervous system shuts down all the time, or like whatever it is, I'm having anxiety all the time, or I'm not feeling fulfilled in my relationships all the time, or I feel so drained, I'm not being reciprocated, people don't understand me, I'm alone. If you want all of that to change, because I tell you what, there are so many people out there that are in your same boat, and we desperately need people that are willing to do the hard work to flip that switch. You have to feel it. You have to go in, you have to feel it. It is hard. Please don't do it alone. You're not meant to do it alone. Of course, I can hold space, but that's not the point of this video. Like, don't do it alone. Go to the people that you feel like can help you through this, that can hold your hand, because that's really all we can do. You know, that saying, we're all just walking each other home. That's all you can do is hold someone's hand. And that's kind of also the final point of this video about the wounded empath, is like that true compassion is holding someone else's hand and being like, I'm here with you. I know how hard this is. I've seen that pain within myself. I know. And you're not doing anything for that person, but giving them the heartfelt messages that you feel like you need to give, or just being present with them, being loving with them while you listen to them. It's not actually really about giving them anything except for the medicine that they need, which is to be in their own power, right? So the wounded empath needs to take back their own power and create their own identity. I mean, power and identity, they are so closely linked that it's not even funny. You cannot be in your power if you don't know clearly who you are. And if you're in this energetic soup of confusion, you're not in your power. And I know that may be hard for some of you to hear, but this is like apparently my tough love conversation today of empaths, because guys, we need you to do this work and not just bypass and be like, oh, I understand my parents, they didn't mean to do any of that, or I'm just going to continue giving to others when I am already fucking not even full myself. Or I'm just gonna like really try to help others change and help them live their best life when I am extremely hurting inside. And I feel like this is just gonna get strong. Again, these patterns are just clicking in and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And how that shows up in your life is gonna be dependent on you, and the way out is through. So you're always being given those experiences that if you like lean into that really hard relationship, or you lean into that project that's not working, that's causing you a lot of heartache and frustration, or you lean into that job that is just like you have a boss that's terrible, or whatever it is, it's something you have a relationship to. It's already being shown to you, your path, your entryway into this work, the energy you need to start moving through. And it's probably the last place you want to go. So I just send you so much compassion for that, because I know how that feels. And I'm still walking that path myself. I'm not going to say I'm all the way on the other side. I'm still got a lot of stuff to feel, but I've been walking this journey for a while, and I've been feeling all the feels of like truly how life has impacted me. And I can just tell you that the compassion that is building in my system is so authentic and genuine compared to what I was doing previously. And it can only be felt. It's something you feel. It's not an action. And the only way you feel that true, authentic compassion is when you can give it to yourself, and when you felt the things that you've gone through in your life with compassion. It's not like just like, oh, I'm giving myself compassion. No, like you go in your depths of the really hard things that have happened to you, and you hold that golden flame of compassion by your side as you hug that prior version of yourself while she screams, while she moans, while she goes to the depths of her despair. And then when you come out on the other side, you hold that golden flame within your heart, and then you can give it to others. But then you'll really know that you can't give it to anybody at all. It is something they must learn how to hold themselves. And I'm gonna end my video there. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want more resources, I have free stuff and, of course, one-on-one paid stuff below this video. Like, subscribe, share if you found this video helpful. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Sending you so much love. You could do this, I promise.